So I'm going to pass it over to David from Fullstack, who's kind of going to walk you through and do a much better job at describing the partnership with Zovio and what they do in order to progress their employees. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Robin. So my name is David. I'm joined with my coworkers, Ben and Veer. We're gonna be, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so that way we can walk you through, our background and kind of what we do on a day-to-day basis. And hopefully by the end of this session, you'll kind of learn a little bit more about what paths exist for your students, so that way you can tell them about it, and we'll also help provide you some resources that you can give to your students if they're interested in some of the career paths that we explore at Fullstack Academy. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quick. Alrighty. Can give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Great, seeing a lot of thumbs. Awesome. I'm just gonna move some stuff to the side here that Zoom loves to put in front of my face. Cool, so we're gonna get started with just a brief overview of the agenda that we want to cover in today's session. And so we're gonna start off with just introducing ourselves. So Ben and Veer and I will kind of walk through our background as instructors, how we got to this point. It'll give you a little bit of context around, our background and why we're even in these roles, and just learning about our journeys, so we're not just like faces on a screen or anything like that. Once you learn a little bit about us, we're going to talk about some of the paths that you can share for your students that they can explore later on in their lives, or when they graduate or whatever they ended up doing. We're really going to tell you about what are the different fields that we explore at Fullstack Academy and teach. And we're gonna help kind of provide you some resources on what your students can do now, so that way they can get started, right? How will they be able to take this information of, hey, I wanna become a software engineer, and actually start to pursue it right away, right? So we're gonna share some resources, show some demos and things like that. And then lastly, we'll leave some time for Q&A, where you can ask us about any questions that you have for us based on the previous slides, or really anything, right? So that's kind of our plan. So let's go ahead and dive into the first portion, which is the introductions. So Ben, why don't you get us started with telling us a little bit about yourself and your journey to becoming a software engineering instructor at Fullstack Academy.
Absolutely. Thank you, David. So hi, my name is Bienvenido Rodriguez. You can call me Ben. And basically, I had a very interesting journey to become a software engineer in general, and then eventually a software engineer instructor. So I don't know how many people here remember MySpace or Tumblr or anything like that. Yeah. So I see some nods. So basically, I started out like kind of coding like backgrounds or like themes for like Tumblr and stuff like that, because I just wanted to have like a nice theme for anybody who went on my Tumblr. But I never really understood that like that was actually a journey for me to take. So when I went to college, actually I did start off as a computer engineer, but I didn't really like that path. And then I switched to chemistry for about 3.5 years. And at the end of that, I just thought, I can't do this. Like, chemistry is not my thing and stuff like that. And I always thought back to the times that I did those themes on Tumblr. So I kind of asked around the engineering department, and they were like, hey, you should probably go to computer science. And basically, I went to do computer science, and while I was like doing some chemistry classes, I did intro to computer science using Python. And I spent all my time on that class because I just loved every second of it. And I just knew like, this is exactly what I wanted to do. It took me a while to get there, but it was very nice to like feel like, I felt like something that I really wanted to do. I felt very fulfilled, challenged and interested. So yeah, I did computer science and math double degree after being already in school, in college for 3.5 years. So I stayed an extra 2 years to finish up those degrees, computer science and math. And then while I was doing computer science, I became a TA for multiple classes because I just really loved it. And, I did love teaching. So, and whenever I would have like office hours and like, describe or like, help students like understand some concepts and I see the light bulb over their head, I just thought, wow, that just felt really good. It felt really awesome. So after I graduated, Binghamton University, by the way, that's where I went. It's upstate New York. After I graduated, I went to work as a software engineer at a bank and at Citibank. And I was there for about 2.5 years. I worked with a breadth of technologies. And and then afterwards, I went into the blockchain industry, cryptocurrency. Maybe some of you know Bitcoin and all that fun stuff, right? So I went there. I built a trading algorithm for a cryptocurrency hedge fund. I was the lead developer there and also algorithms expert. And after I was done with that, I just the hedge fund manager just said that the reason that we actually met, that hedge fund manager and me, was that I went to a meetup because I was invited to talk about blockchain. I understood it from like the business perspective as well as the technology perspective. So this is where I met them, and he kept telling me that I had a really good way of like describing things in like layperson's terms, and said that I should go teach. And I said, well, I don't have a master's degree to teach at a university or something like that. It was like, no, what about coding boot camps? And little did I know that I forgot one of my best friends actually worked here at the time. So I came, and then I applied, and I'm here at Fullstack. Been here for about a year and like a couple months now, and just like love every second of it. And yeah, I'll pass it off to Veer.
Alrighty. Hey, everyone. My name is Veer, like to turn. And I got really interested in cybersecurity and software engineering and all of that in middle school and high school, which I think is the age of most of your students, if not all of them. So for me, I was a big nerd. In 7th grade, I took a summer class on cryptography. It was really fun. The highlight of it was chasing my instructors around the college campus to get the next step in whatever puzzle that we were solving. But that really got me kind of thinking about security and cryptography and those concepts. And in high school, I got exposed a little bit more to software development. I was kind of coding on my TA calculators there. And that was what really got me into, I should study this in college. So in college, I went to software engineering. I actually ended up in electrical engineering with a focus on computer science and cybersecurity. After I graduated, I worked at MIT Lincoln Labs for a number of years doing security research. So this was basically trying to create novel cyber defenses, the next generation of things. After that, I decided to switch a little bit. I went into software engineering at Google. At Google, I had a bunch of different roles, including as a security analyst or security engineer. And then from there, Fullstack came calling because they decided to start a new cybersecurity bootcamp. This is about a year and a half ago. And I'd been talking to them about this bootcamp for a long time because I was very interested in the intersection between cybersecurity and education. And at one point they said, hey, we need people to help build and teach this. Why don't you come join the team? And I've been with Fullstack since then, building and teaching our cybersecurity program. Some of the things that I like to highlight also is that passion for education. In college, I was a TA for some classes. Throughout my times at both Lincoln Labs and Google, I would try to do sort of outreach or education style events. So at Lincoln, we dressed up as various figures and taught web security to young kids. I think I was the Cookie Monster. I had a full Cookie Monster outfit. And at Google, I had a wonderful opportunity to bring a bunch of underprivileged students from schools out in San Jose, so really close by, but totally different worlds. I got to bring them on campus and show them that, like, hey, this is accessible. You can do this too. Just to show, like, yeah, we welcome you. So now as an instructor, I think the best thing for me is seeing my students just get the concepts, get those aha moments, and really learn with a lot of hands-on workshops. And so hopefully I'll be able to show you a few of these later today and answer any sort of questions about how you can take this to your students as well. And with that, I'll hand it off to David.
Great, thanks, Veer. So as you all know, I'm David. I'm also a software engineering instructor, just like Ben. Not so good at security, so Veer's gonna beat me in that department. But so yeah, my career path, you know, I went through most of high school thinking that I was gonna be a doctor. You know, that's something that I've always been interested in. I've always kind of liked medicine, and then, you know, as I slowly transitioned from high school to college, I realized I probably didn't want to be in school for, like, you know, 7+ years. So I was thinking about, you know, what are some other alternative career paths that I could have taken. And at the time, you know, I ended up taking kind of an intro to computer science because I knew that maybe I wanted to explore computer science as a career path. And that's kind of where it all started for me. You know, I studied computer science for about 2 years at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. And then I ended up dropping out. So I took a bit of a turn where I didn't complete my degree. And at the time, it ended up happening that boot camps, or coding boot camps in particular, were becoming a very viable option for, you know, alternative education into becoming a software engineer, right? You no longer had to spend 4 years studying computer science at a college and paying atrocious amounts of money to get a degree and to, you know, work as a software engineer. You could take this alternative path, a 3 to 4 month intensive program that was going to give you all the skills that would allow you to go directly into the field, right? And so that kind of ended up being the best path for me. So I actually went through a coding boot camp, not Fullstack Academy, unfortunately. I didn't really know about them at the time. But so I studied the boot camp, and I practically gained all the skills that I needed to become a software engineer. And then I went into the field, and I worked as a software engineer for about 3 years at various companies. And we'll expand more about the types of companies that, you know, maybe your students will want to work at. And, you know, at a certain point, I realized that, you know, I've always kind of had this inclination to teach others or mentor. And I kind of had the opportunity with another boot camp that unfortunately doesn't exist right now to kind of pursue education based off of the skills that I learned as a software engineer, right? So I ended up entering the boot camp industry as an instructor, right? So I went through the boot camp and now as an instructor. So I got to really see both sides of the mirror. And, you know, I've been an instructor ever since for approximately 3.5 years. And yeah, it's been really enjoyable. I get to, you know, take a lot of the knowledge that I had as a software engineer and kind of teach it. And, you know, I think as instructors or teachers as a whole, we're always looking for those aha moments, right? And I know y'all are probably familiar with that. You know, when a student really understands something or thinks that they understand something, you know, that's something that we're always searching for. And that's something that always I'm kind of hoping that my students will gain in day-to-day activities or workshops or projects that they're doing. And I've been really enjoying it ever since. And that's kind of my career path. So now that you know a little bit more about us, we wanted to take some time to really kind of dive a little bit deeper into our specific roles as software engineers, right? if you're going to tell your students that they can pursue software engineering or cybersecurity, they are probably going to have some impressions that they had maybe from TV or from movies about what those careers actually look like. And so we want to clarify for you what those actually are and what your day-to-day job is as a software engineer or security analyst or something of that sort, right? So most students maybe see, some hacker, I'm sure everyone has seen a movie where there's a person typing really fast on the screen and there's all this code that's like dashing through left and right. And a lot of it is kind of not a perfect representation of what it's like to actually be a software engineer. We don't just sit at our computers and there's a million things just getting thrown at us on the screen. It's a little bit different than that. So let me just transition into my next slide here, where we're gonna take us some time to really just talk about our jobs. So I'm gonna pass it off to Ben now to kind of take you through a little bit about what a day-to-day job for a software engineer might look like, and what things they end up doing, every day, 5 days a week or something like that. So Ben, why don't you tell us about, kind of what it's like to be a software engineer?
Yeah, absolutely. So I could speak it from both the small company perspective, like startup perspective, which is when I went to the blockchain industry, the cryptocurrency hedge fund was just starting out, and I could speak it from an enterprise perspective with Citibank, since it's I think 4th or 5th largest bank in the world. So at a place like Citibank, what happens is that usually you go on a team, and what happens on that team is that they have their set code bases, they have their set projects and stuff like that. And the idea is that once you get onboarded, you're going to be part of those, project planning, as what it says on the screen, actually, right on the bottom left, where it's like, okay, well, usually what happens is that we do 2-week sprints. Basically, every 2 weeks, we try to have do a couple of features or any major projects that need to be done for maybe the business side of things, right? I know I had to build a lot of software for the traders in different departments. So basically, we at the end of that sprint, we go for a meeting on that Monday. Okay, what's going to be for this sprint? Let's look at the work slate. Let's look at the project board, and then we divide up the features or the small pieces of projects that we need to do to each specific engineer on the team. And the idea is that 2-week sprint is all you're going to be working on is on that specific slate. And you're, for someone who's a newer engineer, right, there are going to be maybe some pair programming sessions. The idea of a pair programming session is that, a junior engineer who just started might be paired up with someone who is more senior, maybe a manager of some sort, to be able to help out to build out some features or onboarding. Because when you're a new engineer, right, and you're going to a company like Citi or maybe like a Google or something like that, right, the idea is that their code base is gigantic. Right, and it's when you first go into it, you would need someone to show you the ropes about the different parts of the code base that are important. So usually you start out with some pair programming on that, right? Then what happens is that right before the sprint, the 2-week sprint is over, there might be a time for something called code reviews, where you present to the manager, the project manager or lead engineer, whatever it is, like, okay, here are the specific pieces of work that we've done, and they'll go through a rigorous process, reading through the code, making sure that it's properly maybe tested, or if there's no logic issues or anything like that, so that when we release to production, when it's actually going to be used by our clients, there's going to be minimal issues when we put it into the code base for our clients. And it's some cheeky things. Of course, you get lunch breaks. For something very cheeky, but that's generally a day in the life of a software engineer, generally at a larger company. Okay, at a smaller company, let's say a startup, right, a junior engineer may end up having to wear multiple hats. They may need to have actually more self-reliance, right? Because at a startup, what happens is that they're the managers may not have a lot of bandwidth. And they'll be there to help mentor you and stuff like that, maybe put you through a training program. But in the end, the onus is on the junior developer to really start learning learning things by themselves. And for things that are just super difficult or taking too much time, then bring it up the chain. So what I had to do specifically at, at this like startup or like, beginning of the cryptocurrency hedge fund is that more often than not, like I didn't really have someone to go to for the engineering aspect. However, the algorithms aspect I did, because the cryptocurrency hedge fund manager was a previous trader at Ernst Young. I believe it was Ernst Young. Don't remember which one. Anyway, I would talk to them about the algorithms, but it was on me to really implement. So I really had to, like use the internet to my advantage, do a lot of testing on my own. And, every now and then I would have a discussion with them, just to bounce ideas off of. And there was not really many code reviews. I just had to make sure that my own code was, as best quality as possible. For a mid-level startup, more like, let's say 100, maybe a little bit more, employees. Basically, the idea is that it's going to be similar to the enterprise way, but still much more self-guided. You will still get some mentorship, but the idea is that the pair programming, the code reviews, the extensive project planning, and maybe 2-week sprints, maybe a month sprint, depending upon the company, will be similar. And that's kind of like, like kind of like a day-to-day of what we'd be doing as a software engineer.
Picking up here for cybersecurity, looks a little bit different. And I want to say that I personally have done pretty much all of these things, but you can see that they're very different from each other. Let me just explain a little bit about what these are. So starting here on the top left, we've got alerts and investigations. This is really that role for, if you've ever heard the term SOC analyst or security operations center, network operations center. This is the sort of entry level cybersecurity work, and those are the people who are the frontline defenders. They get alerts about things that went wrong, right? Some system ran some virus. They get an alert about that. And it's their job to investigate, is this really a security issue? And it really is like the crime shows to some extent, right? We're gathering evidence from as many systems as we can, and we're drawing conclusions from those data. On the other side here, the top right, we've got defending networks. And this is everything from setting up defenses, right? Firewalls, my networks, my logging systems, all of the configuration, the things that happen before any sort of incident or breach, all the way to responding to live attackers in real time. And yes, we are a unique field in which we have adversaries that are really out to harm whatever companies or things that we're working on. So we actually are in this adversarial type role where we have to think about how does the attacker trying to operate? How are they trying to hurt me? How can I defend against that? How can I catch them, right, or stop them? Here in the bottom right hand corner, right, attacking systems. We actually do sometimes get the chance to play the role of the attacker, right? This is actually a totally legal job that you can have to be a red teamer. And they impersonate attackers, nation state actors. They'll run exercises. They'll actually try to break in to companies, to systems, cause damage in different ways. I've heard stories ranging from your job in this engagement, you have 1 week and you're going to steal a gold bar from this bank vault. That's your job. All right. Or here's a USB. Your job is to walk in to the CEO's office and plug this USB into her computer. Right. So like there's things on the physical side. There's things more on the cybersecurity side. So I've done an engagement where it was more about, okay, if I'm a rogue employee, how can I change the code base without anyone else knowing, right? And so how can I attack the cyber systems in that way? Of course, to make it a real job, we have approvals that you have to go through, right? You're allowed to do so. And on the back end, after you're done, you have to teach people what you did so that they can make it better. All right, so that's, both of those are really important as well in the red team. And then finally, security reviews, right? So we, as the security experts on whatever teams we're on, other teams will come to us and say, hey, I've got some code, right? Software engineers, we work with them all the time, or designs for networks, right? The IT teams, the other teams that we're working with, even folks like the lawyers, right? Mergers and acquisitions, or if we want to work with a vendor, right? We'll do reviews to assess, okay, what are the risks, the threats, the vulnerabilities? What do we need to take into account in terms of security? And if we have suggestions or recommendations, we'll provide those from that security perspective. I absolutely have been part of the team that caused a delay in a merger, a pretty major merger, because we were assessing their security and said, this is horrible. They have been compromised for years, and we don't want any of their systems touching our systems at all. And so those sorts of things, day to day, again, you wear many, many hats. And some of you may be wondering, why is this purple? Just wanted to quickly dive in on that. In cybersecurity, we have the blue team, which are usually the defenders, and the red team, which are usually the attackers, or the defense and offense. And nowadays, a lot of people blend those together and called it the purple team. People have a love-hate relationship with that word. But that's why I like using the color purple for cybersecurity. With that, I'll pass it back off to David.
Thanks, Ben and Veer. So yeah, I think, now that you have a little bit of perspective on, what our day-to-day jobs might look like, you can start to think about, what kinds of students will actually be good for these roles or want to pursue the roles of a software engineer or a cybersecurity expert. And I think, one thing that both of these fields have in common is individuals who really want to just solve problems, right? If I'm a software engineer, I want to solve problems related to code or, algorithms or data structures, or really just a code base that's going to have an impact on the world, right? And, any software can have that impact, right? And then the cybersecurity side, I'm, trying to solve problems related to security. How can I patch up these vulnerabilities and, problem solve these different tasks that that pertain to the security of a system? And so I think, students that show this inclination towards problem solving are going to be more likely to pursue software engineering or cybersecurity. And one thing we do want to kind of give to your students is, knowing that these are the roles they can pursue, or just, there's many roles that you can pursue in software engineering. There's a front end, a back end engineer, and cybersecurity. There's analysts and other types of roles, right? As Veer kind of talked about, he played several different kind of scenarios, and there might be specialties in these two fields. We want to kind of give you the tools and show you some demos about what you can give to your students right now to see if they're going to be interested or want to explore these different fields, right? So on our next slide here, we really want to talk about how can they start now? What are the tools that you can give to your students so that way they can get interested about these two fields? So I'm going to pass it off to Ben to kind of talk about the software engineering aspect of what they can do now. And, as to highlight for both of these fields, there are going to be a lot of resources free for students online. So any student that has access to an internet connection and a computer can start to pursue software engineering via a lot of the resources that Ben is going to talk about. So Ben, why don't you tell us about some of the resources that you would recommend for students to kind of dive into?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, David. I do want to actually add one more thing before I get into that, is the way that, you see it, like software engineering is everywhere, code is everywhere, right? Like think about it, like our cars are basically tiny computers on wheels. Not even tiny, they're probably large computers, like hundreds of thousands of lines of code, right? Our cars, our medical equipment, the financial system, everything is like, in the context of coding. And, that's the problem solving to build out systems like that. But also on the other side of things, right, you have someone like Veer in cybersecurity where, these the way that you build this software can be vulnerable, right? And the idea is like, you want to protect against like a financial attack or, maybe like, an attack on a car or something like that. And, that's what, cybersecurity is for. So the thing is like everything is run by, code and technology these days. And it's very, very important to have like, software engineers and cybersecurity experts. And, the idea is like, well, how do you get started? And of course, with software engineering, we have something like Scratch, right? And Scratch is like a really great place that, you could have this for their like, for children basically, where if you scroll down just a little bit, David, you have resources for students where like they give you some ideas to like, some like code sandboxes in a way where it's not just like a bunch of like, lines of code that you see maybe on like movies and stuff like that, it's like, how the hell do I even understand that, right? It starts out with just like very simple, like, blocks where like they're like pictures and stuff like that. And Scratch is like one of the best things that you can do to get started. Like if you go to the Scratch tutorial, actually, David, right there, you just scrolled over it. Scratch tutorials. Yeah, there we go. The Scratch tutorials, right? They give you ways to like just move blocks around in like a puzzle kind of way to just build out certain things. It's actually really cool. And it gives you like, that like analysis of, how it like relates to code, right? So it's really, really cool. It's geared towards, someone who, someone who's young and, you want to get them started and, they don't have to like deal with like all the math and stuff like that. Right. So, yeah, so that's like one thing, right? We have Code Academy, basically. So I don't think Code Academy is open right now. That's okay. But Code Academy, the idea of Code Academy is that this is more, it's geared towards, more towards the high school end of things. But the idea is that, most of it is free, right? And the idea is that you go through certain courses to learn specific like languages or like, concepts that in computer science and software engineering and implement them in those specific languages. Like, you see right here, computer science, right? They do it with Python. They have stuff for data science, which is yet another thing that you can go into in software engineering, right? And this is like, it really, helps people get really a start, especially in high school, to really understand like the different, like the actual coding behind the, like the software that powers today. Many different like companies use Python in their code bases, right? JavaScript as well. So this is a great place to start for like, generally around high school. CS with Google. This is also, what do you call that? Really awesome that, they do a similar idea where they try to like do something with blocks. As you can see, some of the kids there are really young, right? So this is, this shows you an idea, same idea. You see these blocks thing that you probably use Scratch as well to help out with that. And the idea here is that, they get, a lot of children get a lot of fun, playing around with these blocks while building out those like, problem solving skills without needing to look at some code. All right. They give something like storytelling, game design, all that really fun stuff. It's really cool. Also, if you open up Code Emoji, right? Coding with emojis. That's really cool, right? So maybe someone doesn't want to look at like open caret HTML caret, right? So the idea is that, well, now they can try to run the code. Instead, they're going to have a start stop sign instead of an open and close tag, and that makes it a lot easier for them to like make the mental model between, oh, an open tag is like a go sign, a close tag is like a red, like a stop sign. And then, this is how actually a lot of our websites are built, this HTML stuff, right? So that's something for something that's really cool. And then finally, if you open up Microsoft Make Code with Minecraft, I know a lot of kids love Minecraft. You could learn how to code using Minecraft. You could like, connect to like some Minecraft servers and like use the different, things that they do inside there where you start a tutorial. You could code using, blocks. You can code using, what do you call that? Actual languages as well. And I know, Minecraft has just had like a really big player base, and it's a great place to start for children to like, learn how to code. And it's actually really cool. So these are some things, and we have a lot of resources out there, but like these are some of the really cool ones that, you know, your children and students can get started with getting into software engineering as early as possible.
Cool. Thanks, Ben. And so I'll pass it off to Veer, who's now going to talk us about cybersecurity and how you can maybe get started in that section.
Thank you, David. So absolutely here, I think, David, I'm going to have you open up a couple more resources
No
for
problem.
us. So the first one I want to talk about is Pico CTF. Okay. This is actually a high school competition. This is, there's prizes. You're eligible to compete as a team in high school. Everyone else is, and middle school. I actually didn't even know that. It's created by Carnegie Mellon. Everyone is able to play and compete, but the only folks who are eligible for the prizes and the actual competitions each year are middle and high school teams. But now, David, if you click on the resources there, Pico CTF has also put together some great resources for both students, and start there, and for all of you. So from the student side, they get to see a lot of sort of learning on what is this, what is hacking, how do I even play this game, how do I win this competition? And then for teachers, you can go back up to the top there, resources for teachers. So for all of you, here is how you can create the classroom. Here's how you can register. Here's how you can maybe start running this in your classroom with students who are interested, right? They have a lot of teaching tools and resources here that I've definitely recommended to even some of my other friends who wanted to try security. So a great place to get people excited and even sort of kind of build a team around this and actually win some competitions. One of the other things I wanted to pull up here was Over the Wire Bandit. You can Google search for that, or there we go. So this is, again, more for students rather than for teachers directly. But this is a what we call war game. Again, it's similar to Pico in that it's a bunch of challenges that they're solving. They're doing some hacking on this external server here. It is completely legal, and really something for the students to do a little bit more self-paced. Bandit is their very beginner level war game. But David, if you go to the very top and click on war games, they actually have a lot of others as well. So as you progress in your skill level, you can continue to be challenged throughout. Okay, and you can see the difficulties and things like that there. So those are two really awesome sort of game-like things. One more of a competition, one more of a sort of self-paced games. There are others that like hack this site, things like that will let you hack them in different ways. I think overall for security, the most important thing to teach is the security mindset of how can I take the system that Ben made in Scratch, and how can I make it do something that he didn't want it to do? Okay, so Pico and Over the Wire kind of get you started with that. Another really awesome teaching tool here is Google Gruyere. So if you search for that, you'll find that as well. Gruyere, just like the cheese for all of you who know any bit of I think French. And it's really play on the fact that it has lots of holes because this is it's an application that they've built that is very insecure. Okay, it's a really great sandbox to explore the web application security concepts. And again, very, very beginner friendly all the way to advanced folks, right? So you can even go in and fix those vulnerabilities if you understand a little bit more of the software engineering side, right? So you can pair it and increase the difficulty if needed. I've used this particular tool to teach web security to middle schoolers, and right, running these sorts of attacks on your friends is a lot of fun for them to see, like, oh, hey, I hacked you. So that's one great thing. Now, these are just a few things that are out there in the world. I did want to highlight this last bullet here that we at Fullstack have also put out a lot of free resources in both fields, software engineering and cybersecurity. Here, David's highlighting our Cyber Onramp program. So this is part of our actual full course that we've externalized here. This particular one goes over how do I use Linux? How do I understand the command line? Which is one of those fundamental skills that we need for cybersecurity, and in my personal opinion, also for software engineering. But we give you this sort of lots of challenges. It's very hands-on all throughout this workshop. Videos done by our instructors here. And Ben or David, I pass it off to you to highlight some of the other full stack things. But before I do, I forgot one more thing in my note. 2 other full stack led events for cybersecurity that I wanted to highlight before I pass it off to David. There's our hacking workshops. So we run these every so often, generally on Saturdays. There's a YouTube video, David, that you can see in our notes that has
introduction.
There we go. So this is actually some of our instructors giving this workshop over Saturday. You can see the whole workshop here. Lots of hands-on labs, no sorts of external resources except for a web browser required to do this. So this is something that you can take back to your students or send them to us and let them do it with us here. And then we also have a CTF that's actually upcoming. So next week we've got a capture the flag event. So we've got a competition running. Unfortunately, we don't have prizes at the moment. If you would like a seat, or if your students want a seat at this, you do have to email me because it is full right now. But if you email me with some folks who are interested, I will absolutely have them open up some seats so that you can attend this event. It's going to be Tuesday evening. And then let me pass it off to David to highlight any of the other more software engineering offerings that Fullstack has.
Yeah, thanks, Veer. I won't highlight any more because we're just running a little short on time, and I want to leave some opportunity to get your Q&A questions. But I think Ben really highlighted, some great resources: Scratch, Code Academy, CS with Google, and Veer highlighted some awesome stuff with Pico, Over the Wire, and Google for you. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but cheeses always have the most complicated names, if you ever noticed. But yeah, I think, one thing to really take away is, no matter, what level you want to, you're starting at, there's almost always some resources out there for both students and educators. And I think the educators part is important because students have to be excited about these things, right? If they saw it on the TV, yeah, they might get excited. But I think more importantly, as instructors and teachers, we need to be the ones that really get them involved with these things. So I think what I want to say is to encourage all of you to really take a look at these resources and maybe even learn it yourself, so that way you can get excited about it. And so that way when you bring it to the classroom, you're bringing all that excitement that you had when you initially learned these topics. And I think that will really translate to getting your students excited about it. And so you can maybe take something like a Scratch level and build it like live with your students, or have your students do a little workshop. These things aren't super complicated that it would take an extreme amount of time for you to build a very, very small workable workshop, or you can even use these resources that have things built out for you. So I encourage all of you to really take these resources, learn a little bit about them, and get yourself involved, so that way when you bring it to your students, you can kind of show them your excitement and also involve them with whatever you want to show them. So with that being said, I will pretty much wrap up by opening it up to everyone on QA. You can go ahead and just unmute. You don't have to put it in the text chat. But I already, it looks like Kim has a question for us. And it says, let's say someone is in a non-related IT pathway, like healthcare. How will skills in software and cyber help advance their careers or take them into a different pathway within the healthcare field? That's a great question. I think, so you can pretty much you can learn software engineering skills or cyber skills pretty much at any point in your life. I don't think it's ever too early or too late to learn any of these skills. And I think, I mean, it won't have any I think depending on which field you are in healthcare, for example. So if we take healthcare and let's say you're a designer, right? You're not doing any kind of coding or anything like that. But I think by learning software engineering or cyber, you're really exposing yourself to different avenues that might be happening in your company, right? So if you're working in a healthcare company, you're a designer, but then you learn software engineering, and now you have a language to connect you between your design and the software that is coming out of that design from your front-end engineers or something like that. So I think it's a great opportunity to get exposed to a lot of things that might be happening behind the scenes that aren't directly related to you or your work. And also, I mean, you could potentially transition into a software engineering role or a cyber role if your company offers those opportunities to you. Ben, Veer, did you want to add anything on that?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. I just wanted to add kind of shortly here. I don't think that there is a career in which you're interacting with people that is not IT related. I mean, yes, you could counteract my argument here by saying, oh, well, the hermit that lives in the mountains, and that's why I added that caveat of interacting with other people. But healthcare is a great example. How many news stories have you heard about in the last 3 months of healthcare's providers being hit by ransomware attacks and shutting down their hospitals? Right. So the cybersecurity, the software engineer at that place, even if you're the doctor, if you know things about this, the nurse who knows about cybersecurity will be better prepped to deal with their job as a healthcare professional. So I think every single profession is improved with these skills. Ben?
Yeah, just wanted to add a quick thing about that as well. Like, David talked about it where it's like, oh, maybe you're a designer inside healthcare or, whatever. And Veer was talking about, oh, what about, the whole, like, healthcare is like, very vulnerable right now, right? The other thing that you can think about is also, we're in the middle of a pandemic right now. And the idea is that sometimes you can't go directly to your doctor, right? So there's something like teledocs, right? That is completely software built. Right. And, someone who has knowledge of the healthcare industry can help inform and consult to build something like that out. Right. Now, of course, you're going to have to deal with Veer trying to hack that thing. But, but that's also from that perspective as well. Understanding another field, whether it's healthcare or another field, helping and then learning how to code or learning software engineering, cybersecurity can help inform the decisions you make on building out products.
So
I have a couple questions. I teach engineering and robotics for high school. I actually had no idea that these, I don't know what you guys call it, the fast path track, I guess, to software engineering and cybersecurity was even available. So let me see if I get this straight. That do you guys offer like the certifications, or do you guys help the software engineers prep for the professional exam? Is that correct?
So yes, it's both. So I'll speak briefly.
And how long is your program exactly? And then do you offer financial aid for your exam or for your courses?
So basically, I'll talk about the web dev portion really quick, and then Veer, you can talk about the cyber, because I'm sure things are a little different. So with web dev or software engineering, we don't necessarily have any exam, right? So for if you want to become a doctor, you have to take the MCAT or something like that. There's nothing necessarily equivalent to that in the software engineering space. We do give you a certificate, but more importantly, we prepare students for the technical interviews. So most companies like Google, for example, will, test your skills before they give you the job, right? So you will go through a series of challenges and whiteboarding sessions and a lot of just communication around your knowledge to prove that you are capable to do the day-to-day job, right? So there's no necessarily exam, but we do prepare you for that interview so that way you can be successful when you're interviewing.
So it's different than like a civil engineer where they have to go take
Yeah.
the professional exam. Okay.
Exactly. I think your other question was like financial aid, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we definitely offer financial aid. We even have programs that, so for example, just to highlight the Grace Hopper program, it's our all-female and non-binary program that is basically free to attend, and you can defer your payment until after you land a job. And if you don't find a job, I don't want you to quote me on the number of days. I think it's a year or something like that. You actually don't have to pay the program back. We can send you links about all our programs.
Yeah. Do you guys offer career, like you help with career placement?
Exactly. Yes. We have a career success team that will help prepare your resume for, behavioral interviews, for technical interviews, things of that nature. Yeah.
Awesome.
Do you want to talk about
as far as like the cybersecurity, do you guys offer the certifications? Like for instance, do you guys offer, what are some of the certifications?
Yeah. Let me actually just jump in and try to answer. I know we're running short on time. And also,
Awesome,
while I do, David, could you actually go to the next slide here? So I just wanted to put this up there in case you want to get in touch with any of us. We have our email addresses. It's generally first name dot last name at fullstackacademy.com. I can also be reached at Veer. That was just me social engineering my way into getting that awesome email address. But to answer your actual question, Melissa, cyber is similar to software engineering, where certifications are a very contentious topic. So the Security Plus exam from CompTIA is generally one of the entry-level certificates that we use. Our programs do train for a number of different knowledge bases, but I think across the board, full stack programs are really, our focus is going from whatever starting point that we have for each of our programs to ready for a job. And sometimes that means, yes, we'll hit some certificates along the way. We've seen our students actually do a lot of different certificates in the cybersecurity program. So anywhere from those CompTIA exams, which are a couple of hours, mostly multiple choice, to there's a 24-hour hacking exam that a number of our students have completed and passed. So
you guys don't like offer Cisco or?
We have not yet used any of those particular certs, the Cisco, the AWS, those certs we haven't used either.
Okay.
For resources, I think Kim and Robin, we should send you an email to afterwards so that we send those resources out. And I actually don't know in terms of an e-commerce course, Javier, for your question.
I don't have one off the top of my head, but we can definitely do some searching and see if we can find something for you.
I mean, in the senior phase in web dev, we build out an e-commerce site as a team group project. That's one of the main projects in senior phase.
Yeah, one of our projects in our program is actually you build out from not exactly from scratch, but almost from scratch, an e-commerce full stack application. So if that's something you're interested in, we can definitely send some resources about that project. And I'm sure there's other resources online. I don't know. Do we have time for one more question? Or do we have
Unfortunately, I hate to be that person, but we don't. Some of our teachers have to hop on another externship session in about 4 minutes. But could you send me any resources, or Robin, or both of us, and then we will upload it to the teacher's Dropbox account so that all these teachers in this session and then all of our other 15, 16 teachers as well could access this info and have all of your contact information.
Yep, we will send over the slide deck, which will include all the links. and things of that nature. And y'all will have that. I appreciate all of your time. I hope you kind of took something away from the things that we covered, and please reach out to us if you have any other questions. We're happy to provide any additional guidance for you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Thank you. Appreciate it.